My name is *Javed****, and I am writing this while barely able to breathe properly. This night has aged me by years, but for you to understand I have to go back. Back to when I thought life was just moving along. I was around 40 years old at the time. This incident happened in 2004. I belonged to the city of Nawabshah in Sindh. It was a simple neighborhood, a little old, a little crowded, but there was love among the people. We had lived there since childhood. We were 2 brothers and 1 sister. I was the eldest, so after my father, most of the responsibilities fell on me. I was married within our relatives. My wife's name was *Samina***. We had 3 sons, small, mischievous, but good children. Even after marriage, I lived with my parents for many years. The truth was that our house was quite small. A 2-room house, a small courtyard, and a lane so narrow that even a motorcycle had to be taken out carefully. But still, it was ours. Old, but ours. Our breaths were embedded in it. Then when my younger brother's children started growing up, the space that once seemed large began to feel cramped. 1 bathroom, 2 families. My mother would say repeatedly, "Son Mahmoud, now you people should also think about something. The children are growing up." I had a job. The salary was decent. We managed. I had saved enough money to buy a budget house. Nothing too big, just something where Samina, and the children could live peacefully. One day I spoke to my father. I said, "Father, I think I should take a separate house now." He thought for a while and said, "Fine, but try to find something nearby so that we can stay connected." This news spread among relatives. Then one day, my cousin Bilal told me that someone he knew had a house available at a very low price. I said, "Fine, let's go in the evening." That evening, Bilal took me to a place inside the city. There, I met a man named Mustafa***. He looked strange, as if he was very tired. But he was soft-spoken. He told me that the house actually belonged to his sister. Her husband had passed away many years ago, so she lived with them. Supporting the children was difficult, so she was selling the house. Bilal and I went with him to see the house. It was quite far from our neighborhood, but not in a very inner lane, a regular sort of place. From the outside itself, I could tell it had been closed for years. The main gate had rust. There was old mud and cobwebs on the edges of the door. When we entered, a damp, musty smell hit us. There were 3 rooms, a kitchen, a small courtyard ahead, and 2 bathrooms. The rooms were empty, but the paint on the walls was peeling in places. The floor had a thick layer of dust, as if no shoe had walked there for years. I silently observed everything. There was a strange feeling in my heart, but at the time, I dismissed it as an illusion. When I asked about the price, Mustafa quoted a very reasonable amount. I thought perhaps he really needed the money. We said we would give half the money now and the rest in a month. He agreed immediately. His quick agreement seemed a little odd to me, but at the time, I didn't think much about it. I took the keys and returned. The next day, I went with a few laborers. As soon as I opened the gate, a stale wave of dampness hit my nose. Dust was everywhere. In some places, there were nests, in others, dried insects. The whole day was spent cleaning. We cleaned the windows, removed cobwebs from the walls, and washed the courtyard. The next day I took painters. We painted, replaced the light fittings, and got the water lines checked. For a month there was some work every day. Finally, the house became livable. It was small, but clean, bright, and starting to look good. When we shifted, we held a small gathering. Close relatives came. Everyone praised the house. It was nice. Everyone was happy. Samina's face also showed peace. The first 2 months, everything was normal. I went to the office. The children went to school. Samina was busy with household work. At night, we watched TV, sat in the courtyard. Life went on like any ordinary family. And then, slowly, the things began to happen that I still cannot explain. Sometimes, a simple sound can leave such a tremor inside a person that they cannot tell for days whether what they heard was reality or a trick of the silence. The first time, something similar happened to me. 2 months had passed in the house. Everything was going well. Then one day, a small fatigue started changing my life. That day was ordinary. I had left the office a little late. The air outside was warm, as Nawabshah's heat sometimes feels like needles on the body. The same routine rush in the streets, the same noise, the same people sitting outside shops. When I reached home, the children were watching TV. Samina was making rotis. I took off my shoes, sat under the fan, and drank water. Dinner happened. Then some light conversation. The same peace in the house, the same small talk that happens in every home. Around 9 p.m., the children went to sleep. Even though my mother was no longer with us, Samina arranged everything with great order. I came to the courtyard, placed a chair, and sat down. That day there was a slight dampness in the air. No wind, no particular noise. Just that night silence of the neighborhood that makes you hear your own heartbeat in your ears. I looked up at the sky. A bulb was fixed in the courtyard ceiling, but I deliberately didn't turn it on. Sitting in the dark has a different kind of peace. The coolness of the courtyard floor felt good under my feet. The wind would come and go in intervals, as if sometimes passing through a corner and then disappearing. It was around 10 p.m. when suddenly, from right behind me, as if someone was standing very close, the sound of breathing came. I straightened up immediately. My heart felt as if it had jumped a beat upward and then settled back. I slowly turned my neck. There was nothing there. Just an empty wall, darkness, and that particular smell of moisture from an old house. I sat silently for a few moments. Even the sound of my own breathing felt too loud. My heart said, perhaps it was an illusion. Perhaps a cat had passed by. Perhaps some air was trapped inside the large earthen pots kept in the courtyard. I convinced myself, Jave, don't panic. The house is old. It must be the wind. I slowly leaned back on the chair, but just a few seconds later, exactly the same sound, the same speed, the same closeness, the same warmth passed near my ear. I jerked my head back. The chair scraped and slid backward. This time, too, there was nothing. Absolutely nothing. But this time, the strange thing was that as the sound faded, the courtyard air also seemed to stop, as if the whole house had held its breath for a few moments. A cold wave went down my back. I bit my lip, pulled the chair, and practically ran inside. Samina saw me and immediately asked, "Why did you come in like that?" I smiled and said, "Nothing, just too many mosquitoes outside." But even after coming inside, my heart continued to pound for many minutes. I felt restless the whole night, but I didn't tell anyone. I kept convincing myself that it was an illusion, fatigue, the wind. The next few days passed. I went to the courtyard many times, sometimes at night, sometimes in the evening. Nothing happened, absolutely nothing. I pushed the earlier incident out of my mind. And then one day, after the afternoon prayer, when Samina was alone at home, the children were changing clothes and I was at the office, something happened. When I came home, Samina's face was pale. She was standing near the stove, but her hand was trembling. I asked, "What happened? Are you feeling unwell?" She was silent for a while. Then she said softly, "I was in the kitchen just now, and I felt as if someone was breathing right behind me, as if someone was standing there." My heart seemed to stop. I became completely quiet. For a moment I didn't see any illusion in her eyes. Her voice carried the same hesitation, the same fear that I had felt a few days earlier. I took a cold breath inside and said in a low tone, "It must be the wind. The house is old, isn't it?" She said softly, "No, Javed. This was not the wind's breath. Someone was standing right behind me." I said nothing. I just kept looking at her as if there was a silent question suspended between us. Was this house really okay? That night, I forbade the children from playing in the courtyard. I also started going to the courtyard less. A strange restlessness had settled in my heart, but I still wasn't fully accepting that there was a problem. And then for many days nothing happened. Such silence that it seemed as if the house itself was saying, "Nothing is wrong, forget it." I also tried to forget. Life became as it was before. I pushed the small, strange matters out of my mind. Some nights are such that even silence becomes a sound. And that night, I felt for the first time that the darkness of the courtyard was waiting for me to come. During those days, my life was moving in a strange dual state. On one hand, household matters, office fatigue, the noise of children, Samina's talk, and on the other hand, that one sound, that one breath, that moment which I myself could not fully understand. I kept telling myself that it was all an illusion. A person hears many things in fatigue. Samina might have also had an illusion, but deep in my heart, a small fear had settled, a fear that is not visible but is felt in every movement. Still, life went on. 2 months passed, and in those 2 months, no incident occurred. We assumed that whatever had happened was perhaps due to the old condition of the house, the wind, or a mistake of the mind. My fear also gradually decreased. I now sat in the courtyard in the evening, sometimes with tea, sometimes reading news on my phone. The children played inside. Samina sometimes cooked, sometimes tidied the rooms. Everything seemed fine. Then one night, perhaps around 10:30 p.m., everyone else was asleep. A very light wind was blowing. The courtyard had floor tiles that absorbed heat during the day but became cool at night. I placed the chair in the middle of the courtyard, straightened my legs, and rested my feet on the cool floor. That night there was a strange silence, as if there was no movement in the whole neighborhood. I just kept looking toward the house. It was a small house with 3 rooms. A fan was running upstairs, its soft sound reaching the courtyard. I took a long breath of cool air and just sat there. Then, suddenly, from some unknown thought, I turned toward the gate. Our gate was made of iron, old, rusted, with a slight gap at the bottom through which a thin part of the street outside could be seen. I just casually looked there. And as soon as my gaze fell downwards, my breath stopped. A cat was standing there. A cat is an ordinary thing. In the street there are cats roaming outside every other house, but the problem was that this cat's eyes were red. Not just red, they were glowing, as if embers had been embedded in a dark body. I stared at it for a few moments. At first I thought perhaps it was a reflection of some street bulb coming through the gate. I slowly blinked. Then I looked again. The cat was motionless, completely straight in front of me. It stood with its red eyes fixed on mine. And the strangest thing was that it was not blinking. I had never seen any cat remain so still for so long. I told myself in my heart, javed, perhaps it's a trick of the light. Perhaps the light is falling on the cat's eyes. But then another thing came to mind. At that time, the whole neighborhood was in darkness. I had also kept the upper bulb off. There was no light in front of the gate either, so how were its eyes so bright? I pulled my feet back and sat up straight on the chair. My heart rate increased. My hands began to sweat. The cat did not look away even once, not even for a moment. I slowly lowered my gaze for a while. Then I looked up again, and it was still looking at me the same way. I thought perhaps it would move forward now. Perhaps it would run away. Perhaps it would make a sound. But no, it remained standing like this for 10 full minutes. My heart kept pounding. A strange panic got stuck in my throat. There was a faint tingling in my hair. And then, as if someone had called it, the cat stepped back in a moment, slipped under the gate, and went outside. I remained on the chair for many moments. My hands were trembling. There was a stone in my chest. I jerked the chair back and quickly came inside. I closed the door and tried to steady my breath. That night I could not sleep. Not for a single moment. I kept turning. When I looked at Samina, she was in a deep sleep. I couldn't even say anything to her. For me, that cat was not just a cat. I felt as if it was not looking at me, it was recognizing me. After that night, my fear increased. I started becoming afraid of going to the courtyard after evening. And in some corner of my heart, the thought settled that the cat was not ordinary. But life, once again, returned to normal for a few days. Many days passed, no sound, no shadow, no breath close by. Everything began to feel normal again. So normal that I once again convinced myself that perhaps it was all a game of the mind. I even started sitting in the courtyard again. But I didn't know that what was silent was not silent, it was waiting. And then came the night when I first saw it in full form. So close, so terrifying that its redness still hides in my dreams. The next morning, my body felt as if I had not slept for days. Samina understood at first glance that something had happened again during the night. She immediately sent a message to my father. By afternoon, my father arrived. As soon as he entered, he looked at me carefully and directly asked, "What happened last night?" I remained silent for a long time. Then slowly I told him everything, sitting on the chair, the corner of the courtyard, the sound of breathing, and that shadow which had slowly come into the light. My father sat silently, listening. After a while he said to Samina, "Don't be afraid. The matter is not that serious. Let's call a religious scholar once. He will recite prayers and everything will be fine." A phone call was made immediately. By evening the scholar arrived. He was a simple man with a soft tone. As soon as he entered the house he asked, "Where does the problem occur more?" My father took him to the courtyard. He stood there for a while, looking around thoughtfully. Then he said softly, "There is nothing heavy in this house. It's just that some effects come and go at night for some reason. Anyway, I will recite and everything will be fine." He spread a prayer mat, sat silently for a while, and then began reciting from the Quran. There was no dramatic atmosphere in the recitation, just a simple spiritual peace, as if the atmosphere of the house was slowly becoming lighter. After the recitation, the scholar blessed some water. That water was sprinkled in all four corners of the house. Then with a faint smile he said, "It's done. There is no need to be afraid now. Whatever was there is gone. After today nothing will come, God willing. The house is perfectly fine." I breathed a sigh of relief. My father also expressed his satisfaction. As the scholar was leaving, he only said, "Keep giving the call to prayer regularly in the house. Take care of your prayers. Such things stay away on their own. No need to worry." The atmosphere of the house indeed began to feel lighter. The fear on Samina's face also decreased. My father also comforted me, saying that whatever was there was over. No one would come now. Many days passed in this peace. Everything was completely normal, as if those shadows, those nights, were just mental pressure, as if truly nothing would happen now. But whenever I came to the courtyard at night, I felt that it would appear again. Weeks passed. The memory of that shadow began to fade. Life had returned to its routine. The children were busy with their studies, Samina with her household work and I with my job. The courtyard, which had once been a source of fear, had now become an ordinary place again. I would sit there in the evenings, read the newspaper, and sometimes take a short nap on the chair. But I never forgot the cat. Those red eyes stayed with me. Sometimes, late at night, when I would wake up suddenly, I would think about that cat and wonder what it really was. Was it just a cat? Or something else that had taken the form of a cat? I never found the answer. Then one night, about 2 months after the scholar's visit, something happened that I still cannot explain. It was a hot night. The electricity had gone out, so the fan was not working. The whole house was silent and dark. I was lying on the bed, trying to sleep, when I heard a faint sound from the courtyard. At first, I thought it was the wind. But then the sound came again, a soft scratching, as if someone or something was scraping the floor. I got up slowly and went to the window. I looked out toward the courtyard. The moonlight was faint, but I could see the chair where I used to sit, and on that chair something was sitting. It was not a person. It was not an animal. It was a dark shape, tall, hunched, with no clear features. It was sitting on the chair facing the house, as if it was watching the bedrooms. I stepped back from the window. My heart was pounding. I wanted to wake Samina, but I didn't. I didn't want to frighten her. I just stood there watching. The shape did not move for a long time. Then slowly, it turned its head toward my window. I could not see any face, just a darker void where the face should have been. But I felt it was looking at me. I closed the curtain and went back to bed. I did not sleep that night. but I also did not tell anyone what I had seen. The next day I called the scholar again. He came in the afternoon. I told him about the shape on the chair. He listened calmly and then said, "Sometimes after the main presence leaves, smaller things linger. They are not powerful, but they can be disturbing. I will recite again, and we will also put some protective signs around the courtyard." He recited again and sprinkled more blessed water. He also gave me a small talisman to hang above the main door. He said, "This will keep the house protected. But remember, the real protection is in your faith. Do not be afraid. Fear is what attracts them." After that night, I never saw the shape on the chair again. The cat also never returned. The courtyard became peaceful once more. The children played there without fear. Samina would sit there in the evenings, enjoying the cool breeze. Life had finally returned to normal. But I never forgot. I still remember the red eyes of that cat. I still remember the shape on the chair. And every time I sit in the courtyard at night, I feel a slight chill, a faint sense that something might be watching from the shadows. I have told this story to very few people. Most would not believe me. They would say it was just my imagination, or that I was tired, or that the house was old. But I know what I saw, I know what I felt, and I know that there are things in this world that we cannot explain. This house, which I bought thinking it would bring peace to my family, brought something else as well. But by the grace of God and the prayers of the scholar, we were protected. We were able to live in that house without fear. Today, I am sharing this story with you so that you might be careful. When you buy an old house, when you move into a new place, be mindful. Not every silence is peaceful. Not every shadow is harmless. And sometimes, the things that watch you from the dark are not just your imagination. If you ever feel a strange presence, do not ignore it. Do not be too proud to seek help. There is no shame in asking for prayers, for blessings, for protection. Your home should be a place of peace, not fear. And if you ever see a cat with red eyes, do not stare. Do not challenge it. Just go inside and say your prayers. Because some eyes do not just look at you, they remember you.